right. Welcome, Hobie, to Coffee Talk. How's everybody doing today? Doing all right? Good. Well, today we get to some nice, pretty simple Proverbs, and that's a good thing, easy to talk to. So Proverbs 25 through 29 contains Proverbs that were collected under the leadership of King Hezekiah of Judah, a king who did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. Hezekiah is credited with reviving Judah's religious traditions, and a new edition of the Solomonic Proverbs was apparently part of that revival, so helping to collect more things. In this collection, there are groupings of Proverbs that focus, among other things, on the king, the fool, and the sluggard. And I got ahead because I have to go away this week, on next week too. So the next couple weeks are like just really just salt of the earth Proverbs, which is good. All right, so let's just jump right in. So starting in Proverbs 25, 6 through 7. You're all ready? Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of the great, for it is better to be told, "Come up here," than to be put lower in the presence of a noble. Where have we heard something similar to this proverb? Yes. You looked ahead, didn't you? Yeah, Luke. I mean, Jesus pretty much says the same thing. Now, Jesus told this parable to those who were invited when he noticed how they chose the places of honor, saying to them, "When you are invited by someone to a wedding feast, do not sit in the place of honor, lest someone more distinguished than you be invited by him. And he who is invited you will both come and say to you, 'Give your place to this person,' and then you will begin with shame to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit to the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, 'Friend, move up higher.' Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit with you. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." So in both of these passages, then, what vice is being rebuked? In both this proverb and what Jesus' words, what vice is being rebuked? I'll reread the proverb so it's fresh in our memory. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of the great, for it is better to be told, "Come up here," than to be put lower in the presence of the noble. Pride, yeah.
Ego.
Self-centeredness.
Boldness.
Was that?
Boldness.
Yeah, like a presumptuous boldness. Yeah. What virtue is being advocated? That's pretty obvious. Jesus kind of lays it out for us. Yeah, self-exaltation is another virtue. So how did Jesus' words take the instruction, so like the practical instruction of Proverbs, hey, don't embarrass yourself by just jumping and being presumptuous. So how does Jesus' words take the instruction of Proverbs 25 beyond simply building a good reputation before others? So I know it's hard to remember sermons I preached on a while ago, but like earlier this summer we did hit this one. Jesus is around a bunch of Pharisees who are trying to take the place of honor, so he undermines the whole system by, just saying, hey, but he uses the shame, but then he uses it to illustrate really how God's kingdom works, and that's in the last verse. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. So more than just being in the king's presence then, where are we at here? How did Jesus, this humility, realizing that, what we receive is a gift, and what's most important is coming to God empty-handed. It's illustrated in these instances, but really when it comes down to it, God's kingdom works not by going, "I can stand before your presence, Lord," but really, "Lord, have mercy on me." And so it's a good instruction to really remember that self-exaltation of any kind is bad, because when we view that we can do it all by ourselves, we will be humbled. And when we humble ourselves, most of the time we're actually humbled from the outside, but God ultimately exalts us. So Proverbs 25, 9 through 10. Sure, I got this right here. I was wrong. 25, 9 through 10. Argue your case with your neighbor himself, and do not reveal another's secret, lest he who hears you bring shame upon you, and your ill repute have no end. Where have we heard something similar, Shirley?
This one I didn't get to.
Okay, all right, then I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there. Jesus says something similar. So in Matthew 18, Jesus is talking about pretty much the church and what happens when a brother or sister of Christ offends you. All right, so when you're doing that, you might be tempted, like the Proverbs says, to reveal another's secret or, not go to the neighbor yourself. So Jesus says, if your brother sins against you and go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained a brother. And then Jesus goes on to say what you do if that doesn't work. So looking at this proverb, just this part of Jesus' words, why is it beneficial to go straight away to the person that's offending you rather than...
Your neighbor can't do anything about the one you're upset with, so if you confront them directly, you can maybe resolve a problem.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't even think about that. Your neighbor can't really help you. Might make you feel better for a brief moment, but oh yeah, she is snotty. Yeah. Obviously, there's the obvious one, do not. Oh my gosh, my brain's not turned on. Do not false testimony against somebody. that commandment. Defeats gossip. You're not committing a sin against the Big Ten. Obviously you're de-escalating rather than escalating. So if you put yourself, or if you argue your case to other people, shame can come upon you in the sense of, well, then that escalates things. And I worry a lot about my ill repute having no end. That's the way I think. Now look at, this is kind of interesting when you look at Jesus's. What is Jesus's ultimate objective in going directly to the one who offends you, especially in the body of Christ? Why is it, what's Jesus's ultimate objective? Let me read it again. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. So what's the ultimate objective of Jesus's resolution? Unity. Say, if it is a legit sin, repentance, because your brother could have fallen away by something they've done to you.
Right, and it might bring it to his notice where he didn't consider it.
Yeah.
And then, maybe rectify it and be a better person. Yeah.
Tough, really hard, but good. All right, Proverbs 25:15. Right? Yeah, 15. With patience, a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue will break a bone. With patience, a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue will break a bone. That's interesting. So what quality is being praised in this proverb? What virtues are being praised? Patience, obviously, yeah.
If you're patient and have a soft tongue, you're probably humble.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes back to that.
Self-control popped out to me because, a lot of times my tongue gets hard when I'm not controlling myself and my thoughts and being impatient. I love that. That's I said, what paradox? It's kind of obvious. A soft tongue will break a bone. That's such a beautiful way to say, that. What do you think might be an example of a soft tongue breaking a bone in real life? So if somebody is as stiff as a bone and they're in your disagreement or whatever, how could a soft tongue break a bone? Just kind of gross when you say the word tongue a lot. What's the thing you catch more flies with, honey? Is that, yeah?
Yeah.
First Peter kind of talks about this sort of thing when he says this. He says, "But in your hearts honor Christ, the Lord is holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, rather than for doing evil." So think about Peter. What dimension does that add? When it comes to sharing our faith with others, especially with those who are hostile to us. How does having a soft tongue help us in that degree?
Your general doing something that way, I think they're more receptive to listen.
Yeah.
You pull them in, not
Yeah. I think too, in the sense of, if let's say it would go the other way around, and somebody's like it continues to persecute you per se, there's
Agitation.
Peter says that they will still be put to shame because you didn't do anything wrong. Whether that's in this life or in eternity, there's a sense of where it's better to suffer for doing good. And if you're interacting with that person with a soft tongue, I'm trying to think of what a hard tongue would be in sharing your faith. I mean, there's obvious ones, but yeah, it's better to suffer for doing good if it should be God's will that for doing evil. Oh, I had that written here. I didn't have to look that up. Come on, Pastor. All right, Proverbs 25:20. Whoever sings songs to a heavy heart is like one who takes off a garment on a cold day, and like vinegar on soda. I didn't know they would have known that. Well, I mean, they're not dumb, but I didn't know they would have done that science experiment back then. So whoever sings songs, they made like little paper mache volcanoes. Whoever sings songs to a heavy heart is like one who takes off a garment on a cold day, and like vinegar on soda. So this saying shows us that one aspect of wisdom is knowing how to act appropriately in the situation at hand. So have you ever experienced the dynamic that is expressed in this proverb? This should sound familiar to you, Kathy, from our training that we had a while ago. Singing songs to a heavy heart. We talked about that a little bit. Have you ever experienced that dynamic when you're heavy and somebody tries to overly cheer you up?
when you're heavy and someone tries to cheer.
Yeah, overly cheer you up. Yeah, when you're feeling heavy and somebody kind of matches your heaviness with this overly, sorry. Yeah, I think, as a pastor, I can see this a lot of times in funerals, like somebody is just destroyed from their loved one being lost, and somebody comes to them, and it's kind of obvious that they're more uncomfortable with that person's sadness, so they meet that with a bunch of platitudes rather than going, "I'm so sorry." Even though there's a place for, he's with Jesus now, but there's a place to meet that person who's mourning, because sometimes that can make you feel one pastor wrote it this way. He said he was talking about when his dad died, and he was just wonderful faith in the resurrection. He, didn't make him question his faith or anything, but somebody came up to him at his funeral and was like, your dad's going to be raised one day. It's like, I need to sit at the foot of the cross for a while. There's a time we do need to mourn the fact that death, especially that death is just awful. And so to try to pull somebody out of that prematurely with, so-and-so's been up for a couple months now, or that sort of thing is kind of counter, it's like taking off a garment on a cold day or vinegar or soda. We need to be able to mourn what is worth it. Yeah.
When my brother died, I had a hard time going the last day of the funeral. And you know me, I'm a coffee hound, so across from the Toby was going to be moved to the church. was drinking coffee, and my daughter said, "Mom, if you don't go, you will never forgive yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And so I got up and went, and they were just putting me into and the director said, "Sit him down and open it for her." Because at the church, he had turned Catholic for his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't open him at the church. And so I owe my daughter that because it was last time.
Yeah. Isn't that great when your children can be wiser than you?
Sometimes they're pretty smart.
Yeah, sometimes they are. All right. Your Romans 12:15 tells us to rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. And so the question, this is something for you to think of at home really, is how can we cultivate the virtue that's being expressed here rather than what is being rebuked in the Proverbs? As a pastor, and being around a lot of grieving people, it's to, not just death, grieving for various reasons, it's just to be aware of what, is coming from your own discomfort of that person being sad. Am I making sense? I know it's kind of psychological, but, a lot of times when I would notice myself giving platitudes or trying to do that sort of thing or trying to overly, it was because I was uncomfortable with that person being messed up at that point where that's not helpful. So I had to go, okay, step back, allow yourself to be uncomfortable, and just be with that person. And then also the other end is just don't be a Debbie Downer when people are rejoicing. That's different. All right, Proverbs 25:28 through 26:12. So this is a little bit more here. All right. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls, like snow in summer or rain in harvest. So honor is not fitting for a fool. Like a sparrow in its flitting, like a swallow in its flying. A curse that is causeless does not alight. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rob for the back of fools. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. Where are we going here to 12? Whoever sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. Like a lame man's legs which hang useless is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Like one who binds the stone in a sling is one who gives honor to a fool. Like a thorn that goes up into the hand of a drunkard is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Like an archer who wounds everyone is one who hires a passing fool or a drunkard. Like a dog that returns to its vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. Do you see a man who is wise in his own eyes? There is no hope for a fool than him. All right, that was a lot, and kind of humorous too. So the set of Proverbs focuses primarily on a fool. So part of being wise is learning how to recognize and respond to a fool. So if you look at this again, what traits of folly are revealed in the passage that we just read? So read it with yourself, or read it over again, 28 through 26:12. So I'll start, the first one is, no self-control. I found interesting, I was reading, it was talking about proverbs in the mouth of fools. So when a fool tries to be wise, it's like a lame man's legs that hang useless, like the thorn in the hand of a drunkard. It's just interesting how even wisdom, to a sense, can be negative for a fool because they won't listen. It was funny. Whoever sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. When I read that, it was, you ever like read something and like a memory shoots through your head that you haven't thought of in years? There was a kid in high school who was a fool now that I look back on it. But him and I were friends, and I had this girl that I liked, and I confided him about this girl, and hoped that he would talk to her about it. And the fool went and told him something really wrong, and it ruined my relationship with that person as a friend.
You should have gone to the girl directly.
I should, but see, I had not read that. My pastor had not shared that with me, but thankfully I didn't, because then I met Kendra eventually. But still, it all worked out. But it just was funny. That's what popped in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I did send a message through a fool, and that did bite me in the butt. Like, it's kind of funny how that.
Yeah.
I'll name the name later. I don't even know where that person is now. We're gonna have a Facebook. Not the person I like, but the fool. I wonder what they're doing with themselves. All right. I love that verse 10 imagery. Like an archer who wounds everyone is the one who hires a passing fool or a drunkard. I think about, if we ever have to hire somebody at this church, or even like just in general, how that's good just to make sure the person you're not hiring is a fool, because if you don't, then you're going to, sometimes you can't know because fools can deceive. And of course, you've heard this one before, like a dog that returns to his vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. That's a good one for the morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one to keep you from doing the same sin again, though. If you ever just want to have that image in your head. All right. So 26, 13 through 16. This Proverbs focuses on the sluggard. Okay, that's a little joke for you there on the paper. All right. That was going to be me. All right, 13 through 16. The sluggard says, there is a line in the road, there is a line in the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so does a sluggard on his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish. It wears him out to bring it back up to his mouth. Remember, they ate with their hands in that culture. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. So that's it for that. So zero in on verse 16. How is a sluggard wise in his own eyes? That stuck out to me because I never thought about that before. How might a sluggard, and then think about the rest of what we read. How is a sluggard think they are wise in their own eyes?
Justify their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Justify their whole can't get out of bed or go do anything or take responsibility or be accountable kind of mentality. Yeah. There's sadly way too much of that in the world today.
Yeah. And like how he says it, he says, there's a lion in the street. So this particular sluggard in verse 13 is fear. And so he thinks he knows more about the danger. And a lot of times when you really get down to sluggardness, it is fear. I think one of my things when I get really stressed out is I just want to sleep. And that's something I have to fight. And occasionally it's good to do that, take a little nap, and then you feel better. But I noticed as I got more into adulthood that was a vice as well, as like I would avoid problems by taking a nap or stress, and so it was kind of fear of facing the situation. Yeah, I just love that imagery. As the door turns on its hinges, so does the sluggard in his bed. I just envision that guy, and then just that thing. As a sluggard buries his hands in a dish, and it wears him out to bring it back to his mouth. Have you ever felt that way about life? Where you're just like, oh, I felt that before. That was real. Even though it wasn't a sluggard, it was just outright exhaustion. But I totally that gave me the feels, as the kids say. All right, Proverbs 26. My children away. All right, where are we at here? Proverbs 26, 20 through 22. For lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisper, quarreling ceases. As charcoal to hot embers, as wood to fire, so is a quarrelsome man for kindling strife. The words of a whisper are like a delicious morsel. They go down into the inner parts of a body. So from your own experience, in what ways can gossip be like a delicious morsel? Have you ever felt like, ooh, come on, you know you've had it. Even men have had it, where you've heard something like, Like
Of course.
if I were like to hear something about that guy,
Something, yeah.
yeah,
I sometimes like to hear it.
yeah, it's like, if I were to hear something bad about that person that ruined me with that girl, I'd be like, ooh, what, he still works at Whole Foods, yeah. Sorry. It's tough. I mean, like, and even in the church, it's tough. You know, if somebody offends you and you don't deal with that and you hold a grudge and then you hear something about that person, it's tough not to go, and just lean in. Even if you don't share it, it's just tough not to lean in. I just think that's a good example of, how tempting gossip and false testimony and that sort of thing can be. Even if you're not the one doing it, like necessary gossiping, how easy it is to just kind of participate in it. All right, so according to this passage, why is this delicious morsel best to be avoided?
It tempts you to spread it to the next.
Yeah, the fire imagery is beautiful. I like that. For lack of wood, the fire goes out. So even to some degree, like even if I avoid the temptation to spread it, and still like leaning in when somebody's gossiping about somebody, that's still adding wood to the fire. So there's that sense of being like, hey, why don't you talk to that other person about that issue? You know, it does no good to tell me, you know. I didn't know how to say they go down to the inner parts of the body. How would that work? Ladies, how you doing? All right. My daughter's going to be mad at me for that. All right. Are we flipping the page now?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Proverbs 27, 1 through 2. You've probably all heard this one before. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Let another praise you and not your own mouth, a stranger and not your own lips. So obviously these verses concern boasting. Did I not copy and paste James below? I didn't. And I had room for it too. So I'll turn to James. James is one of those small books that's you always overturn. Jude. All right, I found him. All right, James 4:13 through 14. James pretty much quotes this proverb and says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes." So putting these two together then, like, what are some ways that we can boast in a way that's similar to this proverb? Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what today will bring. I was trying to think of that because it's easy to go, well, tomorrow I will do this, and then after that I will do that. I could see that in a caricature sense, but I was trying to think like in a real sense. In what ways do we boast about tomorrow, or think of tomorrow as certain when maybe it's not necessarily certain? I think there's that one psalm that says, "Teach me to number my days, O Lord." I think that's the antidote to that, to remember God, it's by your grace that I have tomorrow. So yeah, I want to do these things, and I hope for these things, but have mercy on me.
Well, I had an incident just recently. I bumped into, when I was shopping, a friend that I hadn't seen for a long time. So she asked my address and everything and said she'd be down to see me tomorrow. And tomorrow came and went. And she didn't show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's posting of tomorrow, and she didn't carry it through.
That a seminary professor who said anytime somebody said to him, "I'll see you in church," they didn't come the next Sunday. It's about 80-20. There's still the 20%. The good ones like Alice always come if they say they'll see me Sunday, obviously. But some others, like Hobie, he watch out for him. I was kind of ruminating in my head about, everyday ways I can boast. Like maybe it's good to have like a 5-year plan, but putting your hope in that plan, that this is the way it needs to go, maybe would be one. Like I think about, when I came here, I was so happy, but there was part of my plans in Ohio that had to die to come here. And so I mourned that. And there's a right mourning to that. But there was that sense of like I had put a lot of stock in what was going to happen there, and it's like, even though it ended good and all that, like it wasn't a bad switch, but it was just like a lot of the pain that I was dealing with was the fact that it didn't go according to the way I had planned it,
Well, what's the one thing that man plans to God laughs?
Yeah, that's Proverbs. Yeah.
A man plans.
Oh, yeah.
But a man can also plan, but God directs his steps.
Yeah, that's Proverbs. Yeah. But the basic Proverbs, you want to make God laugh, tell me your plans. That's the yeah.
I had told my brother that I would watch for his wife and his child after he passed. And I did. And just recently, I called her and I found out that she had moved back because I had sent, Brenda and I visited down there in Florida, and my sister-in-law said that she needed her shower fixed and she didn't know who to get to do it. So I came back and told her son. So her son flew down, and while he was fixing the shower, a tornado hit and tore her roof off. He said, "I will never go back there." And he brought his mom up to Erie. She's up in Erie now.
It's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Here.
The bathroom's supposed to be the safest place you go. All right.
Nothing like that had ever happened down in that area. She lived there for years.
It takes that one right storm. All right, verse 12, 27:12. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. So obviously it's wise to be aware of your surroundings, but also, in the context of Proverbs, we've looked at a lot of dangers that we should hide from. Like particularly, I'm not even going to ask the question, but think about all the ways it says, to avoid a haughty man, or to, think about what they just wrote about the simple. There's a real danger in the simple person. Not that you don't talk to them or interact with them, but you don't trust the fool to send a message to the girl that you like, or that sort of thing. So it helps you be aware that there are wise dealings with certain kinds of people, and you could be wrong about that person, but be aware of your surroundings. Is that proverb? All right, 28:19 through 27. All right. This is a good one. This is a good Protestant work ethic in this psalm. Whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuits will have plenty of poverty. A faithful man will abound with blessings, but whoever hastens to be rich will not go unpunished. To show partiality is not good, but for a piece of bread a man will do wrong. A stingy man hastens after wealth and does not know that poverty will come upon him. Whoever rebukes a man will afterwards find more favor than he who flatters with his tongue. Whoever robs his father or his mother and says, "There is no transgression," is a companion to a man who destroys. A greedy man stirs up strife, but the one who trusts in the Lord will be enriched. Whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom will be delivered. Whoever gives to the poor will not be in want, but he who hides his eyes will get many a curse. All right, so what sinful desires and actions are being chided in this passage? There's a lot of them. So work your way through there. Actually, let's go through verse by verse. A faithful man whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but whoever follows worthless pursuits will have plenty of poverty. So what's the vice here that's being, or the sinful desire that's being chided there?
I think gains of skill.
What's that?
Gains of skill.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Spending your time wisely.
Yeah, spending your time wisely. So this is to what vice and virtue. Yeah, using your time wisely. I've met people in my time that jump from this to this, thinking this is the thing that's going to help them. Not necessarily get rich, but this is going to be my passion. No, I'm going to try this. No, I'm going to try this. But rather, the faithful man works his land, does the hard work, even when the land doesn't produce right, and they will have plenty of bread. Next, a faithful man will abound in blessing, but whoever hastens to be rich will not go unpunished. So that might be a way of hastening to be rich in our culture.
Gambling.
The gambling, yeah.
Gains of skill is another answer.
Yeah. Of course, you said, ethically bad thing. Mine's not working with words. But things that are ethically questionable can get you rich quick. That's pretty much saying a get-rich-quick scheme is really what this is going. So again, what's being elevated here is works. Works. Faithful work. Showing up every day. 21. To show partiality is not good, but for a piece of bread a man will do wrong. So again, looking at this in the context of trying to get rich, what's being rebuked here? What's that?
The greed of money.
Yeah.
Not good.
I'd say there's a little bit of brown nosing happening in this passage, for lack of a better term. Showing partiality to the person. James in James' epistle talks about not showing extra attention to the rich who are in your congregation. So from a pastoral perspective, I might look, not that I know who gives, but let's say I did, I would go, I pay more attention to that guy because he's paying my paycheck. Like that kind of stuff. But it could happen, and that's why I don't know, so I don't have to ever have that temptation. But there's partiality and doing wrong. A stingy man hastens after wealth and does not know that poverty will come upon him. Have you ever thought of that? That really hit me, like a stingy man. So I think of a stingy, I almost think of a sluggard, that they don't do anything. They just let the wealth. But in a weird way, a stingy man is hastening after wealth because they want to keep what they have and not give it away to help others or not give it away to invest in something, but they're hanging on to it and clinging to it so that they may be wealthy.
It made me look at my great-grandmother because she was very tight with her money. And one of the things she used to say if we would ask for a second donut, she said, when you can show me you ate the whole donut, donut, then I will give you the second one. And we would try all kinds of ways to make her believe nope, we never made it.
The faithful man eats the whole donut before he grabs another. It's Proverbs, the book of Shirley Proverbs that I'm working on. All right, going to 23. Whoever rebukes a man will afterward find more favor than he who flatters with the tongue. So again, you're dealing with someone who's, wanting to be rich or wanting to be, in context, wanting to get prosperity through flattering others rather than telling the truth. Whoever robs his father or mother and says there is no transgression is a companion to the one who destroys. How might someone rob their own father or mother these days? I was trying to think of that,
I know I don't pay him, for one thing.
Yeah, okay.
Well, if it's a parent who has lost their senses.
Okay, yeah.
They would maybe take advantage of their.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Situation
Yeah.
or, in the sense of signing over.
Yeah, that's true.
My dad had walked out on me when I was 7. And of course, I, at a young age, had been through a lot of the Bible, and one of the things that struck me was honor your father and mother.
Yeah.
And so I never talked down, and everybody, including my husband, said, how can you forgive what he did? I said, because God forgave me. It's easy. And so I think one of the ways is talking against your dad. He didn't do right by me, that's true. But we all have our faults, and that was one of his.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with it, but that's the way it was. And I think we need to have you preach on honoring your father and mother. How do you do it when my mom died before I was 2? How do you do it when my dad walked out on me when I was 7?
Yeah, it's
very difficult.
Yeah. What I've
But
noticed.
I found
Yeah.
ways, because God wants you to honor your father and mother.
Well,
And so I did.
I'll do that sometime. I was thinking this. I've noticed my biggest struggles with honoring mother and father have been in adulthood, because you think, like, yeah, I disrespect them when I was in high school and when I was a kid in little innocent and annoying ways, but now in this time, it's rubber hitting the road in a different way, or even when I was just becoming an adult or just having kids. Yeah, it's a all-encompassing commandment till the day they die, and even afterwards. All right, Timothy, the passage in Timothy is such a good passage about how to handle wealth, and it would pretty much answer everyone here, including how you give to the poor, how you hang on to your wealth, how you can be faithful in your business, but not, you know what I'm saying. So as for the rich of this present age, charge them not to be haughty, haughty man, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. That's wonderful. So he provides us with coffee to enjoy, and even to some degree for those who are faithful in getting their daily bread, he provides them with those benefits to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Is that right? Yeah. So the goal is, like that's the thing, you can be wealthy, you can be rich, but always, don't set your hopes on the uncertainty there, because it can go away, and usually the second you do set your hopes on it, it will. But to be wealthy is to have that extra responsibility of being rich in good works and being generous and storing up for yourself something that lasts forever, because ultimately, even though that's given to you to enjoy now, one day it will go away. No matter what.
Easy come, easy go.
Yeah. All right. So the application that's for you to read at home, that was a nice little, let's just pray for that wisdom to take root in our hearts. God, we thank you for the practical wisdom in Proverbs today. Particularly we ask for all of us, when it comes to gossip, that delicious morsel, help us and guard our hearts, help us to speak out and defend when we need to defend, and just convict us in our hearts with any of these Proverbs where maybe we are falling short of what your law intends, and help us to come to Jesus for forgiveness and lean upon you to give us guidance and empowerment to do this kind of stuff. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So